Now the Spirit expressly says that in latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron. 1 Timothy 4, verses 1 and 2. Phoenix Comic-Con, Phoenix Fan Fusion, Phoenix whatever you want to call it, always held a special place in my heart because that's where I met my wife, and I proposed to her there. But pop culture's really gone down, and honestly, I think the convention has really gone down too, and it's become very money driven. But one thing I noticed was this year, they said, all of you is welcome, not are welcome, but all of you is welcome. And we know what the implication there is, and they want to be very inclusive, and inclusivity is great, right? But also, I was on the phone with a friend, and we were going to meet up there at the convention the next day, and someone who was dressed as Jesus. And I'm not going to describe the things that were happening and were saying, but obviously it was not very pro-Christian. He was like, should I go over there and preach to them? I was like, you're not going to get through to them right now, And he's like, but I thought everyone was invited to this, and like, well, obviously everyone except Christian. I think that's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, right? I mean, stuff like that happens a lot where it's just,
and this same
it
convention
always gets attacked, I guess, but then it's not okay to attack other religions usually, right? Like a lot of times.
So you're saying because it was mocking Christianity by mocking
Correct.
Jesus, meaning it not accepted, but couldn't someone still come as Jesus and just be Jesus and it's okay, right? Like that'd be still accepted though. Like it's not the con itself is not saying Christian. Like I see what you're getting at, but like I also don't want you to say that like Christians aren't welcome.
Okay, so to take this a step further, and this is a fellow voice actor used to do a Christian panel at every convention that he visited.
Mm-hmm.
The only time he ever got denied doing this panel was at Phoenix Comic-Con. And they said our fan base will not be interested in this. They
Okay.
explicitly told him that.
So I guess at the same time, what I think to kind of prove that would be if someone came dressed as another religious character.
Oh, like Muhammad, we can say it.
But if, would that be...
I bet it would be.
It would be offensive to people, right?
Oh,
It'd be like
100%.
you can't be that, but it's okay
Right.
to have
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, I want Phoenix Comic-Con to do better. I mean, obviously they're very...
I just wanted to clear that up and make sure I knew
money-driven.
where you're coming
Absolutely. But just so now this is like two strikes,
Okay.
as far as I can see, and I just think that's terrible. And I think Phoenix Comic-Con needs to do a better job and stop, being in it for the money and not lose sight in being the love for pop culture. Because is it for everyone, or is it for just people who share your exact beliefs?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you gotta, if you truly want to accept everybody, then there really shouldn't be hatred towards anything, right?
Right. It should be all inclusive.
It should be all, and so it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm picking on this or I'm picking on that. It should just be like, this is what it is, and yay, and there shouldn't be hatred towards it.
Yeah.
I just wish they would do it not during the hot months. Like why do it when the week before was Denver Con and Philly Con, and then you got Phoenix Con? Like, why not do it in like January or February where it's nice weather in Arizona?
You mean like they used to do?
I
Right.
also,
Cactus Con?
so here's the other thing that doesn't make any sense. Because on the flip side of that, New York is usually the end of October.
Yeah, when it's
And
starting to
you
get
are
cold.
freezing outside. You guys, we could solve this real quick. Can you guys just flip them?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Because I've been to both, and they both suck to be outside during those times of year.
Well, especially seeing the lines to get in. Like, if you have your ticket and you don't have to go through security, like, it took people 15, 20 minutes to get in, but then I saw people that were waiting out for hours. And granted, they had water for people and
You're
everything
talking about
else.
Phoenix right now?
Yeah. But, like, to be outside when it's, at any part of the day, like, I think today it got up to, like, 103, 104.
I will admit, we got right in at the beginning on Saturday, which I was impressed. Credit where credit's due, but that's this year and this particular time.
Right.
Later in the day, my friend it took him a while to get in there, and I don't know how it took longer at like noon. That's kind of weird.
Because nobody's getting up early.
Yeah, nobody's showing up at 8 a.m.
It was packed. It was packed.
But apparently not the majority.
Right.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I was at Comic-Con last weekend, so whenever this is coming out, you can figure out when we were recording this. But welcome back to We Who Endure. We got a fun little episode for you today. If you have heard us talk about the Lost episode, what was originally going to be episode 4, we called it Real Talk. And we might title that for this episode. We all picked a reel that we're going to watch together and then discuss.
We really did.
We really did.
For real.
Whether it was Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, or it doesn't matter where
it doesn't matter. Yeah,
it doesn't matter where it came from because it was probably posted on
everything,
everything anyway, just like we do.
America's Funniest Home Videos.
I don't think so.
Oh, no, none of those.
No, I don't think
There's no like dog falling off the.
No.
But before we dive into all of this, I quickly want to say we have an exclusive t-shirt design up on our Fourth Wall page. You can check that out in the description of this podcast. It is for 4th of July. So we've got America's 250th birthday, anniversary, whatever you want to call it. That design is up. We're only going to have that available probably no later than the 4th of July. I haven't decided when we're going to take that down.
America.
But yep, America. The order is already coming in, so don't miss out on that because it's fun. So you can show off your faith and your patriotism this 4th of July with that design. I don't know if I have it on screen up here to the left of me, to the right of me, in front of my face, whatever it may be.
Just put it over his face.
It's fun stuff. I took a while on that, and even though it's pretty simple because I was totally overdoing it at first. And
less is more sometimes.
Less is more. Less is more. So first up is going to be my reel. And for this, I wanted to pick this because I feel like this addresses conversations I have with lots of people. And I think we can all relate to wanting to argue with someone online, in the comments, in text message, whatever it may be. I'm going to leave it at that, and let's cut to the reel now, and we'll further discuss this.
Don't waste your time trying to give truth to people that don't want to hear it. Don't try to help people that don't want to be helped. You counseling someone that hates Jesus, they're not ready to receive that truth. Jesus is saying you need to elevate the status of my truth, and don't try to give it to people that don't want it, blaspheme it, reject it, tear it down. That's why you need discernment to be able to say, this heart is not ready for this truth. I got to come back to you in another season.
So, I mean, perhaps obviously the basic principle of this is do not cast your pearls before swine, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, how often are we tempted to argue with someone, especially in this social media age? Are you going to win them over? And you can usually find out how receptive they're going to be after one comment.
Yeah, I find more time, I would say 10 out of 10 times, I'll type something up and be like, well, actually, and then delete. And a lot of times it's more just me to get it out as opposed to not sending, because I know it's going to fall either on deaf ears or it's not, as you said, it's not the season for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I think to an extent, as good disciples, we always want to try to save everybody, right? Because we don't want to ever give someone and be like, man, I don't want to regret and be like, I wish I said that to someone because maybe that changed something. But I mean, there between the don't cast your pearls, or it does say also like warn a divisive person once, and then after the second time, have nothing to do with them. Blah blah blah.
Well, so I mean, like if you just if you try to approach them initially, and coming from a place of peace and love, like listen, I think you might understand something. Like so if you truly come from that place, you can gauge where they are at after they then reply to you. Because if it keeps being very negative, very resistant, maybe okay, it's time to stop.
And it could just have they don't even want a conversation. They're just
Wanting
posting
to
they
be
just
right.
want to just be mad and be angry and
Well,
and it's not to be judgmental to them because like at one point we were all just as bad as
Absolutely.
they were, I'm sure, but yeah, just like as long as you approach it in love but if they don't want to hear it, then so be it. You gave them a shot.
Well, it all depends on the person too. So like if you're looking and let's say it is on someone's profile on Facebook or something like that, and you're noticing post after post after post has the same thematic element to it, then you're just like, well, they're in a place that they're not ready to hear that truth, or they're not ready. It doesn't matter what you say. It's not going to be just the same as whatever they're going to say to you isn't going to change your mind.
Right.
Right. So sometimes it's almost like you got to kind of pick your battles, and almost sometimes the best battle or the best thing is to be by leading by example. Like, let me show you how I present myself. Like this, like if you come to my profile, this is what you're seeing as opposed to yours. So basically living by example to that person. Maybe they bring that conversation to you and be like, how come you're not posting this kind of stuff? Or how come you feel this way about this? And then they're coming with a curious mindset as opposed to a combative one.
Right. And then especially when you're talking about things on social media, even if you are responding to them, it's also hard to respond to someone, and they even though you are coming in love and you might phrase it perfectly, they still might take it the wrong way.
Oh yeah, you can read it in a whole.
You can read
voice.
it in like a whole nother way where it's a little bit more argumentative, and especially because it's online, where everyone else can see it, especially like on a comment, then it feels like that you're attacking them and everyone else sees it. So maybe sometimes it is better to just send like a DM if you can to the person and be like, hey, I saw you posted this. I just kind of wanted to, because then it's private. Then it's just, hey, it's just me and you. And it'll probably come off a little more loving than it would to like comment something back to be like, you're wrong kind of a thing. Because in some way you are trying to prove them wrong, whether you come in love or not. They're still probably going to take it as combative.
Well, that's why they say always like correct in private.
Oh yeah.
Like.
What I always found is, so like I have conversations with people sometimes where I disagree with like a lot of things, and I know a conversation's going nowhere, so I'll hear their side, I'll let them hear mine, but at the same time it's almost like you want to plant that seed to like a little nugget or a little like something to where, because you're not going to change their mind in that conversation, but you want to be respectful and hear them out, so it's not just a one-sided type thing, like I'm just going to keep beating my point into you and you're going to keep beating your point into me. But if I plant these little seeds and these little nuggets of thought and things that get you thinking and leave it at that, then we can mutually go on our way. Like it doesn't affect our friendship because we can have a intellectual conversation, and we may not agree with each other, but we can at least kind of go from there.
And I think it's important too to realize like, ultimately we're talking about matters of the spiritual warfare and whatever. But this does go as far as to even politics. I think perhaps obviously, and I think a big part of that reason is because politics, if you will, for lack of a better term, has become so spiritual. It's literally spiritual warfare at this point in this fight for the culture. And literally, like the verse we opened with, and we're living it now. Giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from foods which God created and received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. And they call good things evil, evil things good, right? Like we're experiencing that right now. So some people are so lost in their ideology and their philosophy and that they're not ready to receive. And yes, we should be reaching these people, but if they're not ready to hear it, they're not going to be able to receive it. And that's sometimes we need to be conscious of this, because we could do damage in trying to force anything on them. So pray for that person. And some of you people who argue in the comments, that's why I don't respond to any of you. You're not ready to receive it in this season.
Yeah. Too much hatred in their heart.
Yeah. And that's why you're commenting against a Christian podcast because you're more interested now in just being right, sowing discord. You know, that's why most people try to argue online, right? Is it ever to try to correct and love? Yeah, there might be people.
Well, at the end of the day, we're just going to endure anyways.
We endure.
Who's next?
Any other comments before we go to the next one? Which one was next? It was his.
It was mine.
Yep.
June is, do you know what month June is? And it's not the one you're thinking of. It is actually Men's Mental Health Month. And this is a huge thing. It's an epidemic in our country, is men battling with suicidal ideation. And get this, right now, suicide is the second leading cause of death for men under the age of 50. 400,000 men a year in America take their lives. And what they're seeing is that if a suicide is 80% likely that it's a male. 80% of suicides are men. And what we're seeing is men have been taught to bottle it up, push it down, pretend like everything's okay, smile and nod and push the tears away and not ask for help, because that would be unmasculine. That would be whatever you want to call it, not alpha or whatever it might be. But truly, the greatest thing that you can do is ask for help, and for you to have camaraderie and brotherhood within the church and outside the church. And so we just want to acknowledge you as men. It is hard to be a man. And if you don't have that space to share in a safe environment where you're encouraged and not looked down upon, just know that you're not alone. We see you. We love you, men. And if you do need to talk, you got to ask for help. Amen. And I want to encourage you too, check in on the guys in your life that maybe you think are doing fine. Often, statistically, those are the ones that are not doing fine, are the ones that you least expected. So make sure you're checking in on our loved ones. Amen. So one more time for the men in the room, the dads, the fathers.
All right, so in case you didn't know, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. It gets ironically shadowed by another thing. And so it's kind of funny because, you talk about men who bottle up their feelings and just say, I'm fine, instead of, because the manly stigma is like, you're supposed to be tough, manly, not so you handle everything, and it kind of gets forgotten. It's also is kind of forgotten this month. So I kind of thought it was kind of fitting to kind of have this reel and just kind of talk about the whole, like, I'm fine mentality and kind of having that kind of against that stigma.
Yeah, absolutely. My personal Facebook page, I have about 141 friends, something like that. Two men on my page, I believe, have now taken their lives.
Well, what was it? I mean, just recently, even like a few days before June began, a hockey player that like I enjoyed watching growing up, Claude Lemieux, he took his own life, and not 3 days before, he brought a torch out to the Canadiens game because he played for the Canadiens, won a cup with the Canadiens. Mm-hmm. Coming out, and you see just all smiles and everything else, but you don't know what demons people are battling on the inside, and yeah. I think that's the key element in that is like you don't know what demons men are battling because, like you said, we're taught not to see weakness and not to, to put on that face of everything's okay, especially if you're being that stronghold for your family, to be that patriarch, that sort of thing. And so really I wanted to play this and not talk about it too much because we could have a whole episode about this kind of thing. But I wanted to have like a verse just to kind of go along with it. Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. And so I was trying to look up kind of like what kind of adversity is it kind of talking about. And so I was kind of like looking that up, and kind of the difference in that is, a friend loves and supports you unconditionally during good and bad times. But a brother steps up, builds himself, and showing true loyalty exactly when you're facing your deepest trials and your hardships. Because we all have like a group of friends that like when things get tough, they kind of disappear a little bit. But there are those that, are strong like your brother, not actual brother like you guys, but like, you know, you have your spiritual brother. So I think it's very important as men, especially Christian men, to have that close brotherhood, people that you can confide in, that you're not afraid or things, you know, not to say that you keep things from your wife or your spouse or things like that, but like someone that you can talk to about things, that understand where you're coming from and may have dealt with the same things. Like I have a friend that we try to meet, and it becomes less and less because the way our timelines work, but we try to, you know, whether it be once a month or once every few months, and we just sit and we talk and just vomit it all out, you know, and we have our own hardships, but like to be there for your brother and to be there to build each other up is the most important thing, is to be able to confide in that person, because a lot of times you just need to be heard. And if you keep bottling up, that's when you start having those tendencies of like, well, what's the point of me even continuing? You know, like I'm only here strong enough to be here for my family, and if that, then what am I?
Yeah, I think a big part of that too, obviously, is like, you know, you talked about like the demons, is like this literal spiritual warfare, right? So to combat that with your brothers in Christ, to pray for you, you know, and that's not an inconvenience to them, you know, that's a privilege to them to do that. That's what we are here for, right? Like we are vessels for the Lord, and we need to focus on God. And if you're going through something, like, it's okay to ask your brother for a prayer, and it doesn't have to be in person, right? We don't have to wait for the next time. Oh, you know, he's so busy, whatever. Shoot him a text, call him. Like, we can pray over the phone. I don't need to be touching you to lay hands on you. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
God can work through any way, right? So, you know, if you're going through those things, it's, you know, important, you know, pray, ask for prayer, ask for help, go to your church, fast, right? Like, go in your prayer closet, like, get away from the kids, the wife, whatever, like, spend time with God and just pray, right? I think that's a really big thing when it comes to that, because you don't know what's coming against you.
Well, and a lot of the time, you don't know what that person, they could look like they have it all together, because men are really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you don't want to sit there when someone you haven't seen in a while go like, how are things? You don't want to go like, well, I've got to do this. You just go, I'm good. Things are great.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't know like
Right.
the million things going on in their head, right? And so and also with Christians, you know, like people will be like, oh, he's leading this Bible study, he's doing a podcast, or you know, he's you know, he's doing these things, and then you're like, well, maybe he should have prayed, and then like maybe they do take their life or something like that, and then like, well, maybe they should have been praying more, maybe they weren't being as, and I don't think that's the case. It's not.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like they're not spiritual enough. Like the most have, you know, downfall, because that's where the enemy is the strongest, right? When you're attacked in your lowest and your highs and everything else. And so like, I think you can't use that as a reason either to be like, well, maybe they weren't spiritual enough, or maybe they weren't.
Oh no, for sure. Because you have
going-
to think about, especially if you want to just get into like the Bible's aspect of it, right? I mean, you had Judas. He was literally sitting next to God for months. He was healing people. He was doing miracles. He witnessed Jesus's miracles, and he still fell and then betrayed Jesus and took his own life, right? So spiritual warfare is, you know, it's strong, you know, like just because they're a pastor, just because they're a youth leader, doesn't mean they're not going through things, and doesn't mean they don't need prayer, or doesn't mean that, you know, you can't just ask them a question if they're doing okay. You know?
And I have such a problem when people kind of talk badly about people who have unalived themselves, and you know, trying not to say the word too often here. And they're like, oh, that's selfish. That's what I was like. What I think a lot of those people don't understand is like, it's this sort of this mental problem. It's literally like, it's like a disease. These people are fully under the belief that their family, their loved ones are better off without them. They truly believe.
Right. They're not being selfish in that sense. They're thinking
yep,
of them.
Forget it, you know. And I hate to be graphic, but I have police officer friends who have dealt with the scenes, if you will, and guess what? Especially, you know, we see it's 80% men, right? Of these scenes, they're very well thought out. they're very considerate about the way they do it very often.
Right. Well,
and you read between the lines on that.
Well, and the thing is, a lot of times when this happens, this was like the first time they succeeded.
Mm.
They've probably tried time and time again and then stopped and, didn't do it. And then, because it takes a lot to go through with it. It's not just some quick thing like, I'm going to, do that. And it's like, no, it's a process, and it's not something that happens overnight. It's something that is weeks, months, even years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it gets to the point where you are done fighting it, and you, especially if you don't have that support or have someone to talk to, things like that. Like, I mean, they even have that, the number you call 988. If you're feeling anything, call 988.
And, just occasionally, don't forget to reach out to someone. Make it a thing for yourself once in a while. If there's a friend or a loved one, even if you haven't talked in years, shoot them a text, shoot them a call, shoot them a Facebook message, because you never know. The other guy that I was with Facebook friends with, like, I think you would never know. He was always happy, running around. He loved taking pictures and stuff, and it's just shocking. But I mean, I bet if he saw the outpouring of love after the fact, hopefully he would have reconsidered. Just you really never know, because it could be like the happiest person, and you really don't. I mean, look at someone like Robin Williams, right? It's always the person who's making you laugh. You just don't know. A personal rule I have for reaching out to people is I have a lot of dreams. I have a lot of very vivid dreams. If I dream about someone, I try to reach out to them that week, just in case that's the reason they were in my dream. That's my rule.
Nice rule.
Thank you.
I guess mine's next.
Yours is next. Do you have any lead up for this besides that? It kind of.
I mean, it kind of goes with it, because just talking about, if you're stumbling through your walk with Christ, just some things, how to get back into it. Good motivation, because this is going to be from Joel chapter 2, and it talks about the day of the Lord, right? So just like, if you aren't prepared for Christ, here's how to help you get prepared for Christ, right? So let me just to give some context. It's always good for context for the Bible verses, right? So Joel chapter 2 verse 12.
Pro context.
Listen, for everybody who deals with guilt, everybody who deals with shame, everybody who feels like, I don't know if I could consecrate because you don't know what I've been doing. There's no way God is going to listen to me. He's not going to hear me. Man, I've been in sexual immorality. Man, I've been far away from God. I know it's a new year, but I'm not feeling God right now. I'm far away. This is for all of us who are dealing with that. Listen to what he says in verse 12. Yet even now, in the middle of your rebellion, declares the Lord. Watch this word. Return to me. Return to me with all of your heart. How do you do that? With fasting. Gosh. With weeping. With mourning. Break yourself. Shed tears. Cry over the issues of your heart. Come to me and tell me how far away you are. Tell me you're cold. Tell me your prayer life sucks. Tell me you don't read. Tell me you're far away. Tell me, return to me with fasting and weeping and mourning. And I like verse 13, rend your hearts and not your garments. I don't want your empty praise, and I don't want no dead service. I want your heart. He says, break your heart. Pour out your heart. Watch this. Wring out your heart. Tell me, God, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with masturbation. I'm struggling with lust. I'm struggling with jealousy. I'm struggling with pride. I'm struggling with anger. I'm mad at you, God. I'm mad at my wife. I'm mad at my husband. I'm jealous. Wring out your heart in fasting and prayer. Not your garments. Man, you can dress it up and come to church and fool everybody.
So for me, one of the biggest parts of that that I feel like is pretty important, and it kind of plays into what we've been talking about, when it says, return to me with all of your heart, with fasting And the last part I think is key, is with weeping and mourning. And I think as men, we're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to show emotion. But there's so many times in the presence of God, like you can't help it but cry. And I think even sometimes in church, I feel like sometimes, I'm not picking on anybody, but like try not to show it, or try not, like, let God work in your heart. Like the biggest things in my life have come in those moments. Like the biggest changes in my heart was just because I just sat there and wept over the problems and the issues of my heart, or of the things that I've dealt with. And that's when God, like the Holy Spirit, just breaks you, right? And I just think that's so important as men, to make sure that, like, it's okay. Like, if you need to sit there and cry, sit there and cry. And like, God wants to melt your heart. He wants to soften your heart. The Bible talks about all the time about the hardening of your heart. Like when people are bad, like their heart gets so hard, and they seem so, you're so like dull. When things happen, you just don't care, right? You just need to soften your heart. Let God just melt you away. And I just think that's just really important.
Well, and I also think kind of what he was talking about is, so he's talking about the wringing of the heart as opposed to your garments, like coming to church, just like we're talking about the last clip of coming in with this facade of everything's fine, everything's okay, but you're dealing with these inner struggles. You're dealing, whether it be lusting, could be gambling, it could be, anything that is not of God, right? And then you could even get to a point where, because there's that sense of shame, right? Like I don't want to give that to God, because that's exposing that wound. That's exposing that thing that is against God. And so it's very important, especially with those that aren't believers and everything else, to be like, oh, I'm such a sinner, I'm so far gone, God's not going to want me. God's, like
it's like that stigma of like, oh, once I stop like smoking weed, then I'll go to church. And it's like, no. You go to church to stop smoking weed. You don't get right and then go to God. You go to God and then God gets you right. Right.
You can't wait till you're better. Like, once I'm done doing this, or once I'm done with this, then I'll be okay. Just like I remember we had, like a church, like you see someone coming in off the street that's homeless or something. They're like, I'm not fit for church. I don't look the part. I'm like, I don't care what you look like. You come in here and this is where God's leading you right now. I don't care that you haven't showered in 2 weeks. I don't care that you've had the same clothes. Like you come in, this is your place too. And it's that same mentality, right? Because you make excuses to not seek God. You make excuses like, I've been sinning. I've been doing this. I haven't been the man God wants me to be. So I don't think he's going to love me like he should. And so I'm just going to kind of continue. And you go down that slippery slope when you should be heading that head on and then meeting him in that place.
Yeah, because now you're saying I'm going to rely on my own strength to get myself better, and we can't. We need to rely on God, and that's the key.
We tried saving ourselves. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
And he said, cry, mourn. It's okay. In this theme of, mental health. It's okay to cry. It's okay to mourn. I posted back in April, May, whatever it was, blessed are those who mourn. Those one of the Bible verses I posted on our social media for We Who Endure. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I posted that because I was my dog that we had for 15 years. We put her down, and my wife and I took that really hard. And I kept thinking about that verse, I bring it up to God, blessed are those who mourn. Like where's the blessing in my mourning? And that day, it really came, and it came in the most unexpected ways, and it came multiple times. So many people, because they knew what we were dealing with that day. I have a handful of really, really close friends, and so many of them reached out, but each one of them, let me know if you need anything, and I love you. Every one of them said that I love you. And I felt so loved by each of them and all the gestures. Even somebody came up to my door and they said, check your camera. Because I collect Pokemon cards, and they left me a couple of packs of Pokemon cards. So all these little things, and I realized like that's what blessed are those who mourn. It wasn't magical comfort from God. It was realizing what support system I actually had, and seeing that work was just such a blessing. I didn't mean to bring that really down.
It's okay. No, but I mean, I think you kind of nailed that. And of course, mourn with those who mourn, right? That's a big thing too. Is like, if you see someone in mourning, you mourn with them.
Yeah, not just you're not just there for the happy celebration moments.
Right.
The real friends are there when you're in your darkest place.
Yeah.
Yep. You rejoice with those who rejoice, and you mourn with those who mourn.
Yeah, it was.
And
it was awesome.
a perfect example too of that is, Jesus with Lazarus, right? Like when he got there, and his wife's crying and everything, and he cried with them, even though he knew he was going to raise him from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a perfect example of like, you mourn with those who mourn, right? Like, yeah.
Well, that's what we got for Men's Mental Health Month there. Any other comments before we wrap this up?
No, I think we're good. We got one more clip though, right? To
Oh
finish
yeah,
this
we
out?
do. We do have one more clip. I totally forgot about that. Lance, you got that? It's the. You'll see.
This is an upper.
This isn't up there. Yes, we're coming back around because we don't want to continue on your day with a little like because I found that like when I was looking up men's mental like health, like I was doom scrolling, right, and I had to stop looking because I was weeping and I started getting emotional and stuff like that. So yeah, this is totally kind of helps give you another meaning to a word that we say so common.
And maybe you'll change to how you say it. For this reason.
I'm definitely considering it.
Yeah.
Every mission where we send human beings into space, somewhere there's that reference in the NASA
What
family.
does that word mean?
I'll tell you what it means.
Please do.
Okay? So, by the way, I'll get to that in just 1 minute.
Take your time.
The atheists who are arguing that I was using Godspeed as a phrase, they all have used the phrase goodbye, haven't they? See you later, goodbye.
Right.
Where does that word come from? It's from God be with you. It's a contraction of those three words.
Oh.
And why would you say this? You would say this to someone leaving the city wall where it's dangerous. Okay? Back when you had city states, you're going to, God be with you. To bring protection for you between one city wall and another.
Wow, and really weird to hear Neil deGrasse Tyson own some atheists.
Well, and really it is it's God be with the YE, so that's where the BYE is, because it'd be like they'd start speeding it up, like God be ya, and so like goodbye, and then just became goodbye after so many years. Goodbye.
Goodbye with you.
Well, God is good too, so goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good.
Yeah.
That's probably that too.
So that's a fun one.
But I mean, I guess you could start saying, "Yeah, God be with you."
Yeah.
And also with you. So, with that, we appreciate you all taking the time to listen. We got one more episode for this month of June, and then we will be returning in August, having a little summer break. But in the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in particular, so you do not forget about us and get all kinds of We Who Endure goodness. I was going to say something else about that, and I just completely lost it.
No, then it wasn't important.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe it was the shirt, so don't forget about the shirt. Oh, you can find all of the links to our social accounts and anything you possibly need at wewhoendure.com. We appreciate y'all taking the time to listen. We love you. Be safe, and God be with you.
Goodbye.